Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. We're on episode 6 of Violet Evergarden, and I'm not gonna lie, from episode 1, I've been watching Violet Evergarden week to week, and it's been nice. It's been a nice change of pace. It's been a gorgeous show. The animation and music and soundtrack, everything's been wonderful. But it's been a show that I've been like, every week, I'm like, okay, time to sit down and watch Violet Evergarden. Cool, great. But I'm not gonna lie, only a couple days have passed from episode 5 to this one because I couldn't wait. I don't know what it is, but Dithard and his whole relationship with Violet and the Major and that whole past that we don't really know much about, I'm so fascinated by it. And the moment he popped up in that end credit scene, I was like, I need to watch the next episode. So it's only been a couple days since I've seen that. Since I've seen episode 5, and episode 5 was really good. It's probably been my favorite episode of the season so far, maybe with the exception of episode 3, because episode 3 was really good too. But bringing up a lot of ideas and concepts about love and how we view love, how we define it, if it has boundaries like from age or anything else, and Violet getting to get all of these different interpretations of love so that she can kind of form her own understanding of that word so she can understand the Major's words to her. My question is, does Dithard know what she said, what the Major said to her? Does he know that? Is the Major still alive? Dithard was more concerned about her killing the guys on his ship, which is pretty terrifying, but he was more concerned about that than the fact that she was with his own brother when he supposedly died or was seriously injured. So I find that interesting and very telling of his character, but it was just the end credit scenes. We didn't get to see the full thing, so I'm very, very curious what all we're going to get out of this episode. But yeah, I just couldn't wait. I was like, am I really going to wait a week to find out? The answer is no. So has it begun? We're almost to the halfway point of the series. Has it begun that I'm just going to want to binge watch this show? I'm not going to, but I feel like it's gotten to that point where I'm like, I kind of want to know what happens next. So with that being said, I'm really excited to dive into episode 6, y'all. And I don't know if it's going to pick up right where the rest of the show left off. I'm not sure, but we are going to find out. And we are going to watch Violet Evergarden episode 6 here in 3, 2, 1, let's go. Oh my gosh, that was precious. So I had to look up the voice actor for Leon after I watched this episode, because as soon as I watched it, I was like, who is that? And it's the same voice actor as Komori from Haikyuu and Atsushi from Bungo Stray Dogs. I'm watching Bungo Stray Dogs right now, so I'm like, I know I've heard that voice. And it's the same voice actor as Atsushi, so I'm like, that makes sense. This was so sweet. I feel like ever since the OVA, like episodes 1 through 4 seemed like it was a little arc, like the origins of Violet becoming the auto memory doll and kind of setting up the world, setting up everything. And then there was the OVA that kind of jump started her transition into feeling emotions and being able to rationalize and grapple with what emotions mean and how they develop, what they mean to her. And then ever since then, episodes 5 and 6 have been amazing. They've been really good. They've been nice, good, self-contained stories that still have a thread to the main plot of the story. Like we tied in episode 5 with the letters about the Princess of Drussel. We tied that into this episode, establishing that the time has moved on. I'm really surprised that we didn't see the conversation with her and Dithard continued, but like she told, the girls there when they first met at the conservatorium, something was off about her, and I'm assuming it's from that conversation. So that makes me think that maybe we'll go back and hear more about that and get like a flashback to their conversation if there was any more to it. But I really thought we'd go to it in this episode. But this episode was so good. And Leon, oh my gosh. Y'all have to know that I'm a multi-shipper. I ship characters with multiple characters. I have a couple OTPs, but I'm definitely a multi-shipper by nature. And so this whole episode, I was like, this could work. I mean, obviously, Violet is heart and soul dedicated to Gilbert. Heart and soul. But if Gilbert is dead, then Leon is out there. He's the comet. I absolutely love the idea of how similar they are, that they're both orphans, that they both come across as cold and emotionless to people that don't know them. So like the guys in the library saying that Leon comes across as cold. At the beginning, he's not cold. He has a lot of emotion. He's just kind of grumbly and grumpy. And his roommate seems to get that, but everybody else seems to misinterpret those emotions. And with Violet, people just don't recognize them. And so she's self-aware. Violet is self-aware that she doesn't have these emotions, but because she doesn't have them, or because she's not used to them, she doesn't exactly know how to interpret that. So it's very interesting, and I like that Leon and her bond over their similarities, but also kind of teach each other a little bit throughout this process, throughout this week. I guess it's a week that they're together, transcribing all these documents. I got the impression when they were transcribing that he was lamenting that maybe they couldn't transcribe the photos or the pictures because he seemed focused on those, and how pretty they were, which is a big... I find that transcribing documents, there's always something kind of lost. When you transcribe something from the original to something newer, there's something always lost, like an element to it. And with them transcribing all those old manuscripts, I get why they want to do it, to preserve it. But then at the same time, it's like that's part of history that you're going to lose, and it's kind of sad. So I love the metaphor throughout this episode of the comet. If this is the only time we ever see Leon, that's sad. But it seems like the comet incident, where it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that these two people crossed paths. And I feel like Leon was able to help Violet in a safe space open up even more. And it's clear that he had a crush on her. And it's so sad because in that moment, he's questioning like her. And it's funny, the love she describes for Gilbert, at first glance seems like a very parental love, kind of like Leon's love for his mother. And that he's like, she seems to relate that love in a similar way to how he loves his mother. But then when he's like, what if I was in trouble, or what if he was in trouble and you had to still work with me, would you abandon your contract and go save him? And she's like, yes, absolutely. I love that line where she's like, I would just have a hard time figuring out how to apologize to you. Like, she knows it's not the right thing, not the appropriate thing to do, but in her heart, she has to do it. And for Leon, he's like, you love him. Like, that's what love is. Love, like unconditional love, is like you would sacrifice a job or sacrifice anything to drop everything and go to someone's aid to be by their side. That's love. And he's like, you're in love with him. And she, of course, because it's this show, we're only halfway through the series, she's like, oh, look, a star, and like completely changes the subject. But it's like, no, you love him. And what I like about this show is it's exploring that love it's continuing on from episode 5. It doesn't have to be a sexual or romantic love. It can be like a parental love, like Leon with his mother, but it is love. And I love that Leon's trying to get her to understand that she does feel love. She just doesn't realize it, or she doesn't know how to interpret those feelings or what they mean exactly. And so that's just, I felt so bad for him though, because in that moment he was like, man, she's really hung up on this person. Is there room in her heart for me with him there? So, but then that little scene at the end where he's like, I want to be a traveler like my father, and I know it's dangerous, but I want to go do it. And if I meet you again one day, will we look at the stars? And of course she doesn't answer because she's out of sight. But it's like, there's a part of me that wants him to meet with her again in the future. There's a part of me that wants them to meet in the future, because they seemed around a similar age. He seemed, maybe he was 16 or 17. Much closer in age than her and Gilbert. So oh my gosh, I really kind of want them to meet again, because it was so sweet, like his little blush, and how at first he was like grumbly. He's like, I don't want to work with a girl, because of course all the guys there, they've been in this all men conservatorium, and they're thinking, oh, we can get with this, or at least his roommates. I don't know if the other guys are thinking that entirely, but the roommate definitely is like, we could get paired up with a cute girl, and they're only gonna be here a week, so it's like, you could have a fling and it would be no thing. But what Leon wants is beyond a fling. Leon doesn't want a fling. He wants a lasting relationship with Violet. And whether or not that's romantic or just friendship, I don't think that matters. I think that he finds out, I think he realizes in this episode that he loves her. It may not be a romantic love, but he loves her and wants to, see her again. And it's like, I just love the concept that love has in the show, that it goes all different directions and has so many different contexts and meanings. And Violet's starting to understand. She's being in different scenarios. So episode 5, we had a romantic love, right? And we also had a parental love with Alberta. And here we have a parental love showing Leon and his mom. But there's also like a different kind of love too that Leon maybe feels for Violet. So she's interacting and engaging in all these different forms of love. And then I'm assuming that by the end of the series, she's going to combine all that together to be able to articulate what she feels for the Major. That's my guess. I could be totally off base. But, oh my gosh, I love Leon's character design. He reminded me a lot of Nezumi from number 6 with the long hair. And I like that we get the backstory of the mom being kind of an outcast, like an outsider that came in and married the father. And then the father... I'm curious to know this line of work where you go and collect documentation and it's dangerous. I guess you'd be crossing into territories that might be in like war-torn countries and that might be problematic. I guess that would be a problematic situation and could be dangerous. So that's probably what's happened. But technically this is time of peace, so Leon should be able to go and travel and not have to worry about anything unless, he's like mugged or somebody tries to pickpocket him or something. But I love that the idea of him trying to outdo her at the very beginning, like, oh, I'll show her up, I'm a really fast decoder, and she's just typing as fast as he can go. And the fact that they do 144 pages of transcribing in a day is a lot. Like she said, 3 days worth of work. And him grabbing, I like the detail of him grabbing his throat. The animation in this episode was gorgeous. I just and I love that the longer we go in this series, the more expressive Violet gets, and the more she starts to question, like a human would question all these emotions and what they mean. Because when the one girl's like, you seem off and you seem funny, she tries to hide it. She tries to adopt a persona and she's like, everything's fine. Like she's trying to adopt a persona, which in episode 1, Violet wouldn't have done at all, right? So, and I love that Violet even acknowledges, she's like, the people that I've interacted with, the things and experiences I've had have all influenced these changes in me and me coming to understand these emotions more and more. She's been at war all of these years, and in war there's no time to really delve into psychological emotions and things like that. It's just you have a mission, you complete the mission, you move on to the next. So now that she's out of that situation and interacting with people who are not in conflict 24/7, she's getting to see different sides of humanity that during war you just don't get to see. And so that's really, really cool. I really like that. So, this was just a really, really great self-contained episode. The whole Starry sequence, how beautiful it looked. Like, Hyoani, just take all my money. Just take all my money. It was so gorgeous. And I just love the idea of these two people meeting, Violet meeting Leon, and then finding a commonality and establishing this bond. And Leon figuring out what he wants to do, and that what he wants to do is to get him one day back closer to Violet. And it kind of ties back to what he said about the mom. The mom left him because she was so in love with the dad. And that conversation he has with Violet at the end there of, would you leave to go rescue that person and get rid of our contract? That's kind of, in a roundabout way, kind of him trying to figure out why his mother left. Because if you looked at the mother in the same situation, if the mother loved his dad the same way that Violet loves Gilbert, then Violet's saying, no, I would do anything to be with him, and I would be sorry that I left you, and I wouldn't know how to apologize, but I would leave you to go find him if he was in trouble. And so that ties right back to the mother. When she left to go find the father, her apologizing to Leon, it's the same scenario. Like, she didn't want to leave Leon, but she loved his father so much that she was willing to sacrifice Leon staying there by himself to go try to find him. So it's just him trying to rationalize, why would someone do that? And it's because of love. And I love that Leon tries to tell her, he's just like, no, you have the same emotions my mother did. You do love this guy. And of course, we don't. I'm so curious. I know eventually we'll get the rest of Dythard's conversation, but it's hard having to wait. But I don't want y'all to spoil me. I do not want y'all to spoil me. I really don't. I'm trying to think of more things to talk about this episode. There really wasn't a lot of discussion that I feel I haven't already touched base on with these characters. It was just such a self-contained story, but it was so sweet. and so kind. I love the fact that Leon heard that conversation in the library, and those guys just being cruel and being kind of like, eh, and then being like, she doesn't get it, and then and I like that she didn't talk him down or anything when he's like, oh, I heard what you said in the library, and she was like, okay, just being so calm and collected and cool about it. It's just really, really neat. But this was just such a wonderful, sweet episode, and it was so self-contained, but so wonderful. And I'm curious if the rest of the season is going to be Violet traveling from place. So we saw Luculia. Luculia was there in this, so I'm wondering if we'll get her like going to different areas around this world to try to give us a little bit more world building and see some different areas and locations in the setting of the story. I don't know, but this was really, really good and really sweet. And so I'm really curious to know your thoughts about this episode. I really like Leon. I hope he comes back. If you ship Leon with her, sure. I definitely think he had a crush on her, but she's very, very, very much, her heart is very much the Major's. So I don't know. It's a funny pairing with the conversation we had in the last episode because Leon seems more her age, but again, we don't know for sure. So I'm curious to know your thoughts about this episode. Please, no spoilers, but this was so good. Episodes 5 and 6 have been my favorites in the series so far, and this is giving episode 5 a run for its money. I think episode 5 had more plot and more symbolism and more thematic elements to talk about, but this episode I think was just a very well-rounded, structured narrative from start to finish, and I really, really like the character of Leon. I really like his character, and so I hope we see him again. But I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week with episode 7 of Violet Evergarden. Bye.